Good evening, gamers. I'm Gregory. This is 1 in 20 D&D, and welcome to DnDaily number 77. Hey, if this is your first time here and you love D&D and other RPGs, and you're looking for tips, tricks, insights, and news related to Dungeons & Dragons specifically, but also anything and everything RPG, this is the place for you, so please remember to subscribe. Hey, by the way, follow me on the socials and send me a message sometime. I'd love to hear from you and find out what your thoughts are on the gaming world. And specifically, I was talking in yesterday's DnDaily about naming your weapons. And I forgot to ask, do you have a weapon that you've named? And if so, what is it? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below this video. In the meantime, let me tell you the update. If you haven't already checked into the Kickstarter yourself recently, the Critical Role Vox Machina animated series, they broke 8.8 million, their last stretch goal, Thursday night during the stream. I mentioned it yesterday, and I want to just give you the update for today. They're over 9 million pledged, with close to 67,000 backers, with 12 days left in their campaign here for Kickstarter. It's amazing. I am stoked and cannot wait. It's gonna be a hard time waiting for that animated series to begin. But something super to look forward to is Ashley Johnson doing a one shot as the DM. That will be fun. I can't wait for that to go down. I'm gonna keep this one short tonight. I have one thing that's I wanted to touch base with, and one thing I want to mention. I'll do that in reverse order. So the thing I want to mention is, hey, Chain of Acheron 10 was released. I noticed that I think earlier today it was released on YouTube, possibly yesterday, like last night or something. But I noticed it today, and I just barely scratched the surface, like the first couple minutes of the session, and I'm already like, I can't wait to dig into that session. That's probably what I'm going to be doing for the rest of the evening and into tomorrow, I imagine. And that's what I want to mention. Chain of Acheron number 10. Go check that out. But the thing I wanted to discuss for tonight, or for today's DnDaily, was something that's been an ongoing theme for me, I guess, in my life, and why I play Dungeons & Dragons still as an adult, and why I loved it as a kid. It's a bunch of friends getting together to be goofy, silly, and tell great stories together. Kill some bad guys and monsters and get some loot. That's what it kind of boils down to in a nutshell. Having fun, making great memories, telling great stories. And I finished this week's Critical Role last night. In fact, I was listening to it, and I really just have to say how thrilled I was, because the first half of the session on Thursday was just exciting, because it was sort of the aftermath of this monumental event that they gave us this cliffhanger on 2 weeks ago. Then we had a week off, and everybody's like, what's going to happen next? So we saw that transition of what's next. And then during the first half of the show, they hit the 8.8 million mark. And for the second half of the show, they were in such high spirits. It felt like they were back to the old group game of just having fun. They were all being silly, cracking jokes. It was the whole second half of this session this Thursday was this light-hearted, fun role-playing session, and it was so refreshing to feel that energy again of like, yeah, they're still just friends playing D&D and sharing their game with all of us out here in fandom. So yay, critters. If you haven't watched it already, you're in for a treat with this session. It was a super fun episode of Critical Role. So yeah, that's what's on my mind for the day. As I mentioned, I'm stoked for Chains of Acheron. I really want to dig into this one. I'm just so much enjoying the story thus far, and being that there's only 9 sessions so far, they're so fresh into it. So if you haven't checked it out, still a good time to dig in. they're with what I've seen of Matt Colville as a DM, I think they're in for quite a ride. So I'm very excited to watch, and I think I will be a fan of the whole show for as long as they choose to broadcast for us. So yeah, let me do a quick tip. We talked about. I think I want to carry this theme forward a little bit here with the naming your weapons, because it's such a cool thing to do, and naming your character is almost, I think, as important as and fun as naming a weapon can be. I've seen the full gamut. In my 30-ish, 40-ish years of, well, no, it's not quite 40 yet. 35-ish, 30 to 35-ish years of playing D&D, I've seen and used names that run the full gamut, the full spectrum of the ridiculous to the profound to the awesome to the normal standard. So and just a few examples. We had a fighter named Joe. He was awesome. By the way, he ended up with a Vorpal sword. This was way back like 30 years ago, 25 years ago or something. That was a cool character and funny. We had a monk named Chip. Yeah, there's a joke in there, but it was a bad one. And yeah, Chip the Monk was a bad name. Oh God, and that was one of the cheesier names. To all kinds of different stuff, but some amazing ones too. There have been incredible ones. We had more of a normal one. Brenton was one of my characters. I thought that was a very normal character name. He was a paladin, Brenton, although his full name was Brenton D. Goodfellow, which maybe was a little cheesy, but Brenton was a good name. And so naming can be a really fun level or element of your role playing that can carry into backstory stuff as well. If you have a villain, a nemesis that your character is out there to conquer, or somehow, coming up with their name and feeding that to your DM maybe. Or your parents, your family, or your ex-lover, whatever it is. There's so many different fun things that you can do with names to incorporate them into the role playing for your character. It just gives you stuff to work with. That's all it is, essentially. It's like a bag of tricks, a tool bag, if you will. So like actors, they're going to go out and they're going to have certain techniques, certain memories, certain thoughts, certain ideas. So it's like if an actor has to film a scene where they have to break down and cry, something they might do is use a memory from an experience that they had where they were that sad and emotionally wrecked, and tap into that to bring it into the moment of their performance. It's a technique. It's a tool that they might use. There's lots of others. That's just one simple example. And for role-playing in D&D or any other role-playing game, a simple tool to have in your tool bag is names. This is a great one for DMs too. If you're a DM and your characters run into a shop and they're like, okay, what's your name, shopkeeper? Sometimes it's easy to come up with a name on the spot. I mean, sometimes you can do that spontaneously. Other times, have a list. This is one that I've picked up from Matt Mercer, to be completely honest. Have a list of names. And maybe you want to even have like, okay, here are some dwarven names, male, female. Here are some elven names, male, female. Here are some human names, male, female, and so on through the different races. And it helps. It's easier to be able to pull those out. I know there are some DMs out there that will even have names for things like taverns, shops, and so forth. And they just have it in their kit that they can pull out on the spot whenever they need it, so that they don't have to be spontaneous. So that's my tip for the day. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I have been Gregory. This has been DnDaily number 77. You have been watching 1 in 20 D&D. I hope to see you at a table someday. Keep rolling 20s until then. And remember, it's your game. Play your way.